Did they not? Didn't Coach K roll out the red carpet for you?
Yeah, Mary and I went down 3 years ago, Veterans Day, November the 11th. They were playing Army, and over the years, he had said, "Why don't you guys come down?" And Rev and I could it just never worked out where we could go. So Mary looked everything up, and I called him, and he said, "Come on." I really was a little bit hesitant because I knew it was going to be a big deal with all the Army brass coming in.
Wow.
In fact, we sat with, they were all around us. There were colonels and generals, everything.
Coach K played for Knight and Army. You were with Coach Knight. Was Krzyzewski playing then? Wow. So this is class personified. Everyone that ever coached, reveres Coach Krzyzewski, and he looks up. This guy who certainly is high on everybody's list, but
well, Mike is. There's got to be a place in heaven for him. First of all, the integrity that the man has is incredible.
Yes.
I could tell you a story. We took our Ohio Northern team back there. I think it was his last year at West Point. He let me bring him back, and it was the year before we won the Ohio Conference tournament. Then we beat Oklahoma, and then we won the Casaba Classic out in California. We weren't quite there, but we were fairly talented, and we had them down at the half seven, and the cadets are getting on them. And Joe Campoli, my assistant then, and I knew what was going to happen. And I tried to tell the kids at halftime, I said, "Guys, we better be precise with our offense. And I'm telling you right now, they're going to be in your face, and it's going to get physical as the dickens." We couldn't hardly enter the ball. They beat us up one side, down the other. But early in the second half, we're still up 7. And the ball goes out of bounds between Mike and myself right at the scorer's table. And there's 2 officials back then. And they said it was their ball. And I jumped up, and before I could even say anything, I've never heard anybody do this. Mike stepped on the floor. He stepped out on the floor, and he said, "Coach is right. It's off of it. It's Ohio Northern's ball." Now, I've always said if they'd have been up 20 or 30, I could understand being magnanimous. I was a friend,
Yeah.
But they were down and struggling, and he did that, and they gave us the ball.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the kind of guy he is.
I've never heard
that is
anything like
unheard
that.
of.
Well, and then when Coach Smalley was dying with that cancer, I called Mike and told him, and he immediately called, and because his wife told me, Jerry told me that, she said, "Well, he's asleep right now, but he'll probably be awake in a couple hours. Could you think you call?" He called back, and then Dave survived that bout, and then I was in Florida, and this was like it was about Christmas time, and he called me and he said, "They're dedicating the floor to me the first week in January. Anyway, you could drive up here and speak." And I said, "We'll be there." And it was a big affair, and I got up and just didn't do very much of anything, to be honest with you, but they had a big screen up there, and all of a sudden it's Mike. He had sent this video up talking about Dave. And then I got inducted to this little, the Hardin Northern County Hall of Fame or something several years ago, and I was the last one to go up. And they said, "Before you come up, Coach, we got something special here." And all of a sudden on the screen, it's Mike. And he's talking about Coach and going back, or whatever. That's the kind of guy he is.
And this is a guy who's got things going a mile a minute.
Yep.
And he's been the Olympic coach, and he's dealing with new freshmen and molding that team, and takes time to do that. Yeah.
Well, and then when Mary and I go, the game's on a Sunday afternoon at 1. And he said, "Come over to practice." They don't let anybody in there now. And so I remember we went, and they stopped us outside the facility and said, "Well, what's your business?" I said, "Well, Coach Krzyzewski wants us to come into practice." And he said something to the effect, "They don't let many people come in." I said, well, they're sending Coach so-and-so, and I can't remember the young man's name. And he said, well, just wait right here, and he'll be here. And sure enough, so we're the only ones in there, and he set us right down on right down there next to, that's when they had Zion Williamson.
Uh-huh. Oh, well, see, we were there the year after, and they told us you wouldn't even get close to this place if Zion was still playing.
Oh,
you couldn't even come to a scrimmage. Yeah.
It was incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Whoa.
then, you know
Who
what
did they
he
play?
did? Well, they were playing Army.
Army.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so then, after the practice is over, he comes over, and Mary Mike said, "What?" He sat with us for 40 minutes. Now he's still got to go get ready
Of course.
for this dadgum game, and we talked, and I said, I remember asking him, I said, Mike, have you thought about retiring? He said, not really at that time. He said, however, when I do retire, I'll stay here in some capacity, which is exactly what he's
Be
going
the
to do.
ambassador of the
Whatever
school.
he wants to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
can you think of the president's name?
No, heck no.
No, nobody can,
And
but
we
they all know Mike Krzyzewski.
Yeah. Well, we went
His
by.
name is all over the place. Down
Oh,
there.
yeah.
We went by Rupp, and I was saying to her, this country is nuts about sports, and I have it in perspective now, and it is just basketball is really a shallow endeavor, except for guys like Krzyzewski.
Yeah.
And a doctor doesn't make as much money as the president doesn't make as money. The president of the school, the president of the United States doesn't make as much money, but this guy is just. He, to me, he's Coach Knight with more diplomacy.
Yeah.
And he's just an amazing person.
And he's adapted. He's
Yeah.
adapted.
Yes.
You know, because you can't coach today like we
No.
did back in the
Yeah,
day.
of course
well,
not,
first
yeah.
of all, we'd be in jail.
Yes, we would be.
You know, and you know how we knock the flash pivot down. Well, you can't do stuff like that. They've taken the physicality out of the defense. But
He has navigated all those
Yeah.
little roadblocks, and just that is awesome.
and I'll tell you something else about him. Over the years, I don't know how many times I've corresponded or we've talked on the phone, but I'll send him, like, if he wins a big game or before the season, I'll send him a note. And I always say, no need to respond or whatever, because I know he responds every time, every time.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
like you
great.
said, he's got all these things going.
Yes, he does. But yeah, but you remember the people that worked hard for you, and that's why I'm coming 1,000 miles to see these four guys, who will probably have us separated by the time when they get done.
Tell these stories.
Telling the stories.
messing with me. I'll tell
I
some
have two
stories
older
about them
brothers,
to
and
their
I'm
wives.
totally.
But it's tit for tat.
Yeah.
It's a guy thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely a guy.
But if
thing.
you know, any team you spend time with, it becomes a family, and that never. What is your polar bear or polar bears? What was the saying? The new T-shirt.
Well,
You're always once a polar bear,
once a polar bear,
always a polar bear. But it's like that with anybody that has gone through the. I won't say war because it's not war, but anybody who's gone through that great experience of a great team, a great season, a great program. Yeah, it's very fun, and I'm just here to honor you and Mary.
Well,
And
that's so
and,
nice.
and
There you go.
Joycey. No, I'm telling you, for dance, she's a legend. Her daughters are taking over her studios, and it's fundamentals.
This guy should have been a diplomat, for crying out
I
loud.
know. You should. Well, I know you've seen him, the way he writes. He's
No,
he's
he hasn't.
witty.
He hasn't.
He,
I have a
he
book
writes. He
that I wrote.
edits films.
No,
I
it's-
would have thought he was
It's
a
fun
writer
stuff. It's just fun stuff.
or a journalist.
Coach,
of
I
some
wrote
sort.
an article about you. All humorous, and I said I really don't know Coach Scott. So better hold off on that. I had you as playing college football without a helmet because he said your first.
I'd love to see that.
Okay, I have it. I didn't bring my computer. It's in there. I'll get it to you.
Okay.
Would you get a kick out of it? Yeah, you played without a helmet because it cracked after you were a middle linebacker. Did you play football?
I did.
Okay. He played middle linebacker. The helmet cracked. He just went with it the rest of the season.
That's funny.
But that's the kind of stuff I do. I gave the four guys I'm seeing on Saturday complete new identity. Scott's on the cover. Take a look at this.
So you're going to see Staley?
No, Stemple. I see Staley all the time. Stemple and the 3 teammates of his.
Okay.
that I was
Tell when next time you talk to Joe, tell him I said hello.
I sure will. We talk about you all the time. But hold that cover up of the fake sports show.
Oh, there's old Scott.
That is Scott down for. Him and Chris were there for the Christmas bazaar at our place last year, and
And were they really on Sports Illustrated?
you know, of course not, but they were on mine.
This is great. He made this.